Welcome to the Wealth Blueprint Podcast, where we bring on guests that will teach you how to break the matrix. Most people are not taught on how to invest, understand how money operates, and learning the secret to living a limitless life. We will give you the knowledge, trials, and insight to create your own wealth blueprint. It's up to you to implement and act. Let's begin. All right, guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the Wealth Blueprint Podcast. Today we have the owner and founder of Gym Reapers, Mr. Rock. So, Rock, appreciate you coming on, man. Happy New Year.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First, Rock, give us I always like to get a background. I like the story of like how you came to be with Gym Reapers, the position that you're in right now. So give us a background first, introduce yourself, and then give us a background of like what got you into sports, weightlifting, going back to like the high school, middle school days.
Yeah. So, I'm 28 years old. I founded Gym Reapers when I was 19.
Okay.
I guess if we went all the way back, I started working out because of football. I started playing football in middle school.
Where'd you go to high school, middle school?
Rocky Mountain.
Rocky, okay.
Yeah, Heritage. I was like Sawtooth, then Heritage, then Rocky Mountain.
Nice.
All local around Idaho.
Yep.
Then I got in the gym when I was like 14, 15.
Okay.
Just because that's when they kind of get you going in high school freshman year.
Right.
And I was like, I love training way more than I love football.
Yeah. The training aspect, I think, was always more fun than the actual like practicing. I was the same way. I loved doing like the summer workouts and the weightlifting. Like that was always a little bit more fun than the actual maybe game itself.
Well, and it's like that's where I kind of started to see, oh, wait, if I put the work in here, I can get the result back.
Right.
And I was about 120 pounds, 130 pounds going into my 8th grade summer.
Okay.
And just got super obsessed with, this is like today it's super common, but this is social media being so huge with fitness.
Yeah.
And I want to say, what is that? Like 2008?
Yeah.
And I put on, just in high school, I'll condense the story, but in high school I put on like 85 pounds.
Jeez.
So I was bigger than I am now. I was probably like 210, 215.
What position were you playing?
Linebacker. Yeah. And I was just, I was obsessed with working out. Like, I think I squatted like 405 for like 8 when I was like 17. Yeah, and it was just like I got on the powerlifting team when I was 16. Trained with Jesse Norris, who, for people that don't know Jesse, it's like he's world record holder for deadlift squat. And I would he was my weight class, so he'd get first, I get second. But it's just like
it's good competition.
That's where the love for powerlifting, weightlifting came through, and around just through high school, I watched my dad lose everything through the recession.
Oh, was he in real estate or was he?
He worked for Weyerhaeuser. Okay. Which is like a wood manufacturing business. Yeah, and that industry just got destroyed.
Right.
So, those experiences kind of mold your psychology, you know what I mean? And how you think about things. And so the normal way of doing things where you just go get a job, I watched my dad do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. And I always had like entrepreneurial like tendencies just through, high school. There was this brand called Fly As Me. Okay. And I used to sell that dude's shirts at my school, or just a bunch of stuff, little things. And going out of high school, I went to BSU for like a year.
Okay. What was the intention?
I had a FAFSA grant, like that covered it all, because my dad lost everything. So I went for BSU or for business, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then the FAFSA grant ran out, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to go into debt for school. I did that year, ended up working at bodybuilding.com. Okay. And around that time, I'm like, I want to build something. Okay. This is I had started Gym Reapers before going to BBCom, but never had the concept or ideas.
Gotcha.
And I wanted to get into real estate, so I started attending real estate meetups.
Why real estate?
I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like Think and Grow, all the books that everyone reads.
Love that dude.
When I was like 17, 18, 19, like in that age.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, if I get a good job and I can invest the money, I could probably on a long enough time horizon make something happen.
Scale it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I wasn't like a doctor or a lawyer, and I knew I wouldn't get there.
Yeah.
So you kind of had two paths, right? It's like I'll start investing in real estate, and I'll start Gym Reapers. Yeah. Right? And at Gym Reapers, it's like if you don't know e-com and you don't know the levers to pull and like how it works, you're going to have a long path trying to learn it.
Right. I would agree.
So for the first like 3 years, there's no income made.
Yeah.
But when I was 20, I bought my first duplex and I just house hacked it, which a lot of people know that.
Yep.
I was going to these real estate meetups and hanging out with, there's like 4 older dudes and they would just talk about real estate and I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I would just listen. And then at those meetups, I met a guy who owns a ton of real estate and I ended up leaving bodybuilding.com and going to work for him.
Okay.
His name's AJ. And he owned just a ton of self-storage. Osborne.
Yeah. Okay.
This is before he's putting
blew
himself
up,
out on social media. So I was 20 when I moved and worked with him. And then I started buying more real estate as Gym Reaper started to work.
Okay.
And pivoted Gym Reapers into equipment around 2016.
Why is that? What did it start as?
It was like
Just
I
apparel?
had my tattoo artist design like these graphic tees.
Okay.
And I was just selling them in like bodybuilding's like there's like a communal like customer service area where there's like 100 agents.
Gotcha.
And I would just fling them like out of my trunk there.
Gotcha. So they're like shirts, shorts, stuff like
Just
that?
shirts, bro.
Oh, just shirts.
Screen printed like 6210 next level tees.
Okay.
And it just wasn't scalable. Like I tell everybody, you need a scalable, repeatable model.
Right.
And it's like if you have to buy a shirt for $10 and you're selling it for 20, you have no margin to scale.
No.
I didn't even know what margins were.
Yeah, just start
or
making
like
shirts.
a P&L or any of that.
Yeah.
And then when I met AJ, he kind of was the financial education to me. I
Okay.
just had Gym Reapers to experiment with. I was working in a self-storage business. And he would just like, we'd sit at his house and just talk about a P&L for like fucking hours. Can I cuss in this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We would sit there forever
Yeah.
and just talk about like, hey, here's how this works. Or he made me do a P&L on Gym Reapers. And I remember thinking, this is dumb. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. And how old were you?
20.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, this is a waste of time. And then he didn't talk because I didn't work for him at this point.
Yeah.
I would just do stuff for him. Like I wanted to be around some people like that.
Right.
And he was like, hey, bring this to me and come back when you're done. And it probably went by like 3 weeks. And
Okay.
I didn't hear from him. Obviously, he's busy.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. And I was thinking, I was like, I need to do that.
Yeah.
Because then I can go talk to him again.
Yeah.
So I filled it out. And when you fill out the P&L, you start to see, I'm not making any money.
Right.
I'm losing money in my cost of product, in my expenses, all these things.
Yeah, just the visual. Like a lot of people think, oh, I'm making something. Like if you were actually to take your finances on a month to month, I think a lot of people should learn exactly what you did and run a P&L for themselves.
Yeah.
Whether you have a business or not, but get a actual visual of money coming in, money coming out.
Yeah.
And it will shock most people.
Yeah.
The
Well,
outcome.
You're just losing. You're either losing money or spending too much money in certain areas,
Right.
and then seeing it on paper kind of brings it to life.
Yeah.
So seeing the P&L and understanding that, I had another buddy who I think is like Tanner Kaufman.
Yep.
He was selling coffee on Amazon.
Okay.
And I was watching. There was just a bunch of different e-com avenues.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to pivot my product line. And so I pivoted into equipment because I knew it from powerlifting.
Oh.
Like me and Jesse, we would wear lifting belts, knee sleeves, wrist straps.
Right.
And those brands were obviously like Goliaths to
Yeah.
me. But just looking at what I think I could do, and I just tried.
Okay.
I had the cool brand name, cool skull.
Yeah. No, it was dope. How long did it take to pivot? Was it like an immediate reaction? Did
Well-
it take months to think about?
So 2014 February is
Okay.
when I started Gym Reapers.
Okay.
I didn't launch knee sleeves and make money until June of 2016.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
2 years ours.
Yeah, and so and then really, I mean, I didn't have 5 products until probably June of 2018, because
Wow.
I self-funded. I had $5,000.
Yeah.
I spent the $5,000 on the knee sleeves.
Yeah.
And I just kept turning the money over, working for AJ.
Did you ever bring in outside capital?
No.
Was it all? It was all you.
No, I own 100%.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
What throughout this entire thing? So you said from 2014 to 2018, we didn't actually sell a knee sleeve.
2014 to 2016.
Okay.
I was in the shirt phase, right?
Okay.
Like shirt phase, trying to figure out e-com, trying to figure out how to get money.
Yeah.
Because I was living in a trailer with my dad. Like I had nothing.
Yeah.
Literally though. Like
Did you have the rental property still? Did you sell those?
I bought that in 2014. I bought that duplex in 2015 of July.
Okay.
So that's when I moved in there.
Okay.
So I guess I was running it out of there.
Gotcha.
And then I bought the next duplex in July of 2017, 2 years later.
Owned it. Lived in that one and owned it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
I just
Love
kept
that.
playing. kept playing that game while I was building this
Yep.
thing.
No, I mean, that was pretty easy on the back end, right? You didn't have to do much. I would assume just, live in one house, put the other one up. Did you have a property manager?
No, I was managing them.
You were managing. Okay, so it was a little bit more hands-on.
There's like, they were pretty run down.
Yeah.
So, you get it prepped, right? Clean up the floors, paint it, to get it as nice as you can.
Yep.
And yeah, that's how that works.
Okay. So I guess going back to my original question, that's a long time without, like just getting punched in the face. Like you're, multiple years injecting capital. What's going on in your mind? Like, what are you saying to yourself that, it obviously assumed that you knew it was going to work out, right? But throughout years and years and years of changing this, pivoting, et cetera, what was the mindset that was kind of, on the back end that you had of like, I'm going to continue to make this work? Because a lot of people would not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to the question, I don't think I ever thought that this was going to work out.
Yeah.
I think looking at it today, it looks like it worked out for now.
Uh-huh.
What I was doing was I was doing all of it. I was doing the real estate, going to school, because I ended up going back to school,
Okay.
working for AJ, starting Gym Reapers, and I was trying to create opportunity by doing as much as I could.
You just stay moving.
You have to,
Yeah.
right? Because there is no guarantee, and Gym Reapers 6 years ago doesn't look like what it looks like today.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make sense to just think, oh, I just got to keep. There was signal that it could work.
Yeah.
The knee sleeves could sell. The wrist wrap was a viable product. Like
Yeah.
there's just like I could do apparel one day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I bought the next house. That's why I got my degree. That's why I kept working with AJ, trying to help him build his business. Because let's just say Gym Reapers doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, I can go be an executive at AJ's firm and buy more real estate.
Sure.
And maybe I try another at bat.
Sure.
Or if the real estate doesn't work, I can double down on the e-com side. What ended up happening was they all kind of worked.
Yeah. You had multiple sources of income kind of at the same time. Maybe not immediate income, but they were, it was knowledge that you were putting away and hopefully, in the future would pay you back, dividends.
Yeah, and I had like the last 10 years have been an opportunity that, low interest rate environments, e-com and social media merging. Like
Yeah.
Most people don't realize like most of the brands that they love that are new they just love them because they just came out on social media. Well, if I was 5 years behind or coming out right now,
Yeah.
the level of scale that you can get is a lot different. And you could see that in brands like Movement, like the watch company and
Yeah.
Gymshark. They caught Instagram perfectly. I remember watching them catch it in like 2012.
That's a good point.
I was 4 years after them.
Yeah.
Before I even got traction.
Yeah.
And they were already 10-figure companies.
Is that just because there was, they
caught the wave.
Yeah.
Like you catch the influencer wave when Instagram's algorithm's working.
Right.
And you get these opportunities, right? You just keep going. As long as the idea works.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
For sure.
It doesn't mean that you're going to hit it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks today like what keeps you going. It's like, well, I have no other option. And two, the long-term play, like I'll play it on a 10, 20, 30-year time horizon.
Sure.
If I can still continue to get incremental progress,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
The thing that you said that really resonated with me was just you stayed moving, right? Some of it was obviously, still grinding on Gym Reapers, learning from AJ, working on the real estate side of this. How many people your age during this time frame, and you're a couple years older than me, were you talking, like, what were the conversations like around your sphere during this time frame? Was there anybody that was your age having the conversations that you were having while you were building this book of business?
Was there anybody my age?
Was it all older people?
That's a good question. I could talk to a few people about it. I don't think there was anybody doing it. And even you become the 5 people you surround yourself with. It's like,
Right.
I was hanging most of my days from basically 2016 to 2019 was spent with AJ, his dad, and his brother-in-law that run that company.
Yeah.
Like I was spent 8 to 9 hours a day with those guys.
Very successful people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time was spent alone working on the idea.
Yeah.
Like working on Gym Reapers. Like I I'd work there from like 8 to 5, go work out. And then from like 7:30 to 1, it was just me working on the idea.
Yeah.
I had a couple of mentors on forums that had built like decent sized e-com businesses.
Sure.
So like $1 million to $5 million revenue, which those people know the principles of what makes it work. And at that point I wasn't making that.
Yeah.
And so learning from them on like how to create value or like how to run ads or all these things, I was getting traction there, but I don't think there was anybody necessarily trying to do what I did. I don't know if anyone even thought about it. I'm sure people would if they were thinking that way.
Right.
But it's like, who's gonna go spend 7 years doing nothing but that?
Right.
And there's probably not
very few.
Anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I would agree completely. And that your story is cool. It's very similar to mine, where I found, I went to school for a second. I didn't like it. I stopped. The money was running out. I didn't want to accumulate debt. And I found those mentors.
Yeah.
And, very similar. I would learn from them during the day. And, I would have my normal job that I was working at the time, training athletes. And then I would go do my side thing. Then it was just, that alone time. And I think that I see that continue to reoccur with successful younger people that I talk to, is they had an older mentor that had been there, done that, and they're learning from them, and then they go out and implement. So I think that's crucial.
Yeah, like you need to get you need to shorten your learning curve, and like there's people have feedback loops that take forever to learn what works, right?
Yeah.
Like you have this like period of like learning experience, failure, and most people never get out of the loop of like what made me fail, or why didn't this work. And it's like if you have somebody who's walked the path, even at like if it's not in a core like in the same industry as you,
right,
they still know the basic principles.
Yeah, you can take from it and apply it to your own.
Exactly.
For sure.
And like if you can have somebody there, not necessarily like babying you, you have to go do the work.
Yeah.
But being there to be like, I wouldn't do it that way, I would do it this way, and here's why. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. Or no, I'm going to try it.
Yep.
And if you fail, then it's like, okay, well, that guy's
didn't
right.
work. Yeah.
Right. And it's not just like there was definitely AJ, but then there was like my realtor Cameron, my accountants, and I've had multiple accountants that, I'll have like a pool. My dad, I'll even like he's not a business guy.
Yeah.
But his advice serves a purpose to a certain like perception that I want to hear.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's like I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right. And I might have other advice that it's like, you should do that, but it balances itself. And if I can take in 8 people's feedback and be able to make decisions off that, it's like, okay, I'm probably making pretty good decisions on a long enough time.
Love that.
And that's just the compounding effect. Yeah,
for sure. And I like what you said, shortening that learning time frame, right? So I think a lot of people, they try to get it so perfect. They try to get it so dialed in before they go and try to implement it. But one of the ways that I've been able to accelerate, success is by just going out there, and I know enough to be dangerous, and then just go out there and start implementing. It's probably not going to work. You're going to have to pivot, et cetera. But every time that something doesn't work, I see that as like the learning opportunity, right? I accelerated, what I know not to do, and I continue to evolve from there, right?
Totally.
And a lot of people, throughout all of this, you were staying so busy, but it wasn't wasted movement. Like you had a mentor, you're working on the side thing, you're working on yourself. Money isn't stagnant. And a lot of people, I feel like, think that money is just, it doesn't move. And one of the ways that we measure money throughout the economy is the velocity of it. How fast is it changing hands, moving over? So for somebody that's trying to accumulate wealth to make money, you have to be moving. You have to be, taking that time to have a mentor, to work on all these other things. And it sounds like that's exactly what you were doing during this time frame, right? Which I love.
Yeah. Yeah. Like money, like I don't even think I was ever chasing money, dude. I think I was, you need to first develop yourself enough to have the skill sets that provide value to something. Like that's what I think I was doing, is I was just trying to gain as much information as possible so that I could reapply. And then like, I don't, people think, I need to have a lot of money saved up or like whatever.
Right.
When really they should be looking at like, well, how much like equity or enterprise value, or like, what is the, asset base that you can build, because cash is more of a tool to move assets,
for sure.
But and so you need it initially, but I would never even say like I built my whole real estate portfolio off like low % down loans.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've ever paid more than 15% down on anything I own.
Yeah. Leverage each one.
It's been 3.5s to 10. So I didn't need a lot of money to do that. I started Gym Reapers with a very little amount of money, but the intent was never, let me cash this out.
Right.
So that I can get $1 million. It's no. I'll keep investing and building an enterprise value business.
Love that.
And if you go in with that mentality, you think different and your decisions are different.
Sure. You have a longer time frame, right? You're not trying to get the instant gratification or, 1 or 2 year time frame. You said, hey, I'm going to delay that gratification down the road. I'm going to continue to let that compound and invest.
Well, and eventually you get such a wide enough asset base, or you got enough stuff going on that you're making money and you're comfortable and you have the lifestyle you want.
Right.
But the intent was never, I'm going to go do whatever I got to do or trade my time to get this lifestyle. It's like, no, you get big enough to where the lifestyle just comes and it just happens.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So talking about the real estate portion of things, right? So it sounded like very young, you wanted to get into the real estate. One of the things that I love and admire most about what you've built is that you own the building that you're in.
Yeah.
I think that is huge for any entrepreneur that is running some type of business. If they have to be in a building, own that building, right? Why would you not? So kind of walk us through the transition to the building that you're in now, which looks completely badass. I want to go take a look at that thing.
Yeah.
But walk us through, like, what is it that you had to prepare for to get into that? And ultimately, why did you want to own your building?
Sure. Well, I have a bunch of small real estate, and then my jump up, because you had mentioned earlier that you wanted to jump up into commercial. My jump up was the Idaho Statesman with AJ.
Okay.
So we bought that and we're making it a storage facility.
Nice.
That changed my mentality around where to best spend my time and what to be focused on when it comes to real estate instead of like duplexes, triplexes, houses.
Right. Some of the smaller stuff.
Yeah. So, but I think having all those properties and my banker knowing I had all those properties, when I said, hey, I want to go buy this building, of course, Gym Reapers or the business that's going into it needs to have the revenue to be able to foot the payments. But the bank and the SBA, which I used an SBA loan, they want to know, can this guy operate that business? Right. I don't think anybody could just be like, I'm going to go buy that. Because most bankers are going to say, there's no credibility or
collateral,
history even.
Right.
Like they want to know you have experience managing an asset at that scale because technically the bank's the business partner. They want to make sure you take care of it. They want to make sure you know what you're doing with it. And so the intent there was, it was twofold. And most e-commerce companies, they're not going to go buy the real estate because they're not going to diversify their focus out of the e-com.
What they know.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't have either if I didn't have the history in the real estate side.
Right.
Because it is it's not a waste of time, but it's not where the time's best spent.
Sure.
So we needed space. We're growing quickly. Instead of doing we were in 1,000 square feet 14 months ago.
Yeah.
We were in 10,000 back in November. And that was I seller financed that deal. It was an older couple.
Nice.
But we did these rapid jumps, 1,000, 10,000, now we're 60. I didn't want to do 1,000, 10,000, 20,000.
Right.
Because the cost and expense to move a business, the lack of focus, it blows up an already hard thing to do. And so I was like, okay, let's go to 60. Get enough space to where we don't have to move for years.
Right.
So that we could focus on building the business. And so, found that building.
About a year ago?
A year, year and a half ago.
Okay.
And the Boise market's so competitive. I offered $1 million over.
And how much was the original cost?
It was listed at 7.
I was just okay.
And then I offered because there's a lot of private equity funds around here, and I know that they were behind me, but I don't think they underwrote it at $1 million over.
Gotcha.
They were probably a couple $100,000 over.
Yep.
And I kept losing deals. That was my third warehouse, or I'd lost 3 before that.
Damn. Someone coming in over asking.
Coming in over asking, coming in all cash, just getting. Yeah, and I'm on a clock because I'm gonna have to go lease from Sensi or at somebody.
Yeah.
So offered that, worked through the whole SBA loan process. I initially got rejected.
Okay. So walk us through real quick SBA loan. What does that entail? How does that process work?
Yeah, there's two forms of SBA loans. There's a 504 and a 7A.
Okay.
7A is more for business acquisitions or like capital.
Okay.
The 504 is for real property.
Okay.
And what it allows you to do is, I'm not an SBA loan expert, but I'll just explain what I know.
Sure.
You could put 10% down on a property. There's a certain limit. I think it's $5.5 million that the SBA will carry for you. Okay. So the bank will carry the other 50% or 40%.
Okay.
Because it'll split. You put 10% down. The bank carries 40%, and the SBA carries 50.
Gotcha.
I think it's 40. I think the bank carries 40.
And then you carried the 10?
Well, you already put the 10 as your down payment.
Okay.
And what it does is it allows the bank to relieve their risk on the government.
Gotcha.
By the government buying it out.
Gotcha.
Right. So initially it'll be like a term loan where the bank will do 90.
Yep.
And then the debenture company, which is like a debenture company is like the liaison between a bank and the SBA,
okay,
will come in and package that 50% and sell it off.
Gotcha.
So I initially got rejected because the loans, like going from 1,000 square feet to 60 is hard to explain to most anybody.
It's a big jump.
Yeah, when they're looking on paper and they're like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it did make sense to me because I knew our growth trajectory. So initially got rejected. Me and my banker, we redid the paperwork.
Okay.
And resubmitted. And I actually fell out of contract the last 2 days.
Wow.
Because my money was going to go hard, and it was a lot hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't. The SBA hadn't gotten back to me in time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got to get this back. And so I fell out of contract. They relisted it, and then 2 days later, this is like December 29th.
Oh, damn.
The SBA calls me, hey, you have full approval. So we respun it back together.
Wow.
And closed before the end of the year.
That's awesome, dude. I can't imagine the nerves of.
It was intense.
Yeah.
It was intense. Well, and it was that kind of set the foundation. And the reason I bought the real estate is like it's to have control. It's to be able to build out what I built out for our employees,
right,
and the team there, and it's to also like long term be able to have outside of Jim Reaper's assets that can continue to scale in their own way.
For sure.
Because I worked for AJ. I watched what they've built with their holdings company and their private equity fund, and I'll do that with industrial real estate.
Okay.
And just continue to go down that path.
Is that something you're still doing right now?
Yeah. So I have like the Statesman, the building in Boise, and then this one.
Okay.
And then there's 9-acre lot behind the building.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then House of Design was supposed to build. I don't know if you know them. It's a big robotics firm.
Okay.
And I think their plans changed. They're in like the Macy's Mall or something.
Gotcha.
And so they're selling that, and it's already got the 120,000 square foot building steel sitting on the lot. They were going to build, they didn't. So I'll close on that in 2 weeks.
Nice.
And then
what's the plan with that?
Just we'll move everything back.
Okay.
I'll probably build that in the next 12 months, and hopefully, like the plan is, like we'll just grow into it, the back of it.
Nice.
If I have to lease a portion of it out, I can, but
that
way we don't
good.
have to, because the thing is, you don't want to move. Like if you have to spend time and money moving, you're diversifying your focus off of the business.
Right.
And Gym Reapers, we are fitness equipment, apparel, training.
Yeah.
And any time spent like moving, resetting up systems, calibrating everything, it's a mess. It's a mess.
How long did each one take to move? Like when you went from 1,000 to 10 and then 10 to 6, like was it about the same amount of time?
Well, I mean, the sophistication of how we moved changed. We rented a U-Haul, and we moved that 1,000 square feet in a U-Haul.
Oh, damn.
For a week straight. Jack and Colby, they would load up pallets.
Yeah.
And then they would just drive it over.
Yeah.
But we didn't have racking. There was no systems. We didn't have a WMS, warehouse management system. And then moving from the 10,000 to 60, they moved that in a day.
Holy cow.
It was the existing manager's or like the current manager at the time's plan.
Okay.
Which that was not my plan.
Yeah, okay.
And it didn't work because then we spent the next month and a half, 2 months.
Like rearranging,
and we still don't have. It works. It flows now.
Yeah.
Because we went through Black Friday, but we'll launch that WMS going into actually this month.
Okay.
So that it's so you don't backtrack. So you walk the aisles, and it'll tell you what to scan, how many to scan, and where to scan it.
Okay.
Because what'll happen, it's all efficiency. So like you don't want to have people backtracking.
Going
aisle.
back. Yeah.
And so that system, you could have 12 people walking aisles, not backtracking. 12 people times 12 orders.
Yeah.
You need to be able to put a scalable system in place. I don't want to move that system once it's in place.
For sure.
We will one day, but like if I can do it in 5-8 years,
yeah,
not every year and a half.
For sure.
That's the intent of buying the building. The real estate portfolio, like eventually your assets get big enough to where you can like the assets should pay for more assets. Right now it's like my savings and income is fueling asset acquisition.
Yep.
But eventually you get the wheels turning to the point where that doesn't need to happen.
Yep.
And the real estate buys itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings in a good point where, a lot of times during, what you've done for the last couple of years is, you've been working in the business, right? Working in the business, working on the business. And those are two completely different things. With where you're at now, is it one-fold where you're just working on the business and you're no longer working in the business? Do you have to split time back and forth? Like, what does that look like to continue to scale Gym Reapers?
I spend all my time thinking about Gym Reapers. So
yeah.
it's like I don't think I'm never
not thinking about it.
Not working. And so I'm pretty involved day to day.
Okay.
Like I'll be in the business. If everyone's like, we have 36 people.
Yeah.
And I'll be involved from content to marketing to paid ads to I'll check in on customer service, warehouse.
Okay.
I'm pretty involved. I might not be doing the tactical work.
Sure.
I'll help establish what needs to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm jumping into the next thing that needs to get done.
Okay.
When I work on the business, a lot of my decisions are predicated on, where we're going and where we want to be. So it could be what other team members we need to bring on, what other products we want to get into.
Okay.
New marketing strategies.
How much of that comes from looking at other people? Like, do you look at the competition ever and say, hey, they're doing something, but I can do it better? Or where does that strategy come from?
I think the context would matter. Because if, I guess, give me some examples of why somebody would look at another brand. Like, for me, we try not to take the creative, we want to be Gym Reapers. We don't want to be brand A, B, C, right?
Okay.
But if we see, a great ad on YouTube and we're not running YouTube ads, well, then we'll do a meeting. Hey, we got to get running on YouTube. Here's 8 examples of great ads.
Gotcha.
And I guess you can normally tell, if you've seen that ad for the last 2 months, it's working. Nobody runs unprofitable ads.
Right.
So you can make a deck around hey, here's the 8 ads. Here's what we should run it on our products. Here's who we should target. Let's try this.
Gotcha.
And it evolves into something. Most of the time, who to hire, what systems, processes to put in place. I think I just take a 360. It's what do I think? What is everyone in the market doing?
Yep.
Finding the WMS system that we just implemented. It's called PeopleVox. Huge apparel brands run that system.
Okay.
It needs to be able to tap into our ERP, which is the brain of our company.
Okay.
It needs to be able to tap into our shipping software. So there's constraints, and then there's what everyone's doing,
right,
and then there's what we think we can do. And that's just one project. So I would say in certain aspects, we'll look at what other people are doing, but then in a lot of the times it's just meetings talking about what we think we should do. I kind of already have an intuitive, this is where we're going. Here's how we're going to do it.
Right.
And then just kind of getting feedback as we're going down the path.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that, dude. Last year was a crazy year for many different industries. Obviously traditional legacy system did not perform well. Stocks, bonds, crashed. Liquidity tightened up. At any point during 2022, did you have to pivot in any way on what you guys were doing? Because, for a lot of people, money was a big issue, right? People are making less money. Prices are going up. So just the current environment, did you guys ever have to change, pivot, alter what you were doing in order to continue bringing in revenue?
No. Not to say it's not something to look at or be concerned about. I think like different industries will get impacted differently, right? Like
For sure.
For construction, fuel prices and raw material like steel or copper, that's going to hit them hard.
Yep.
And fuel went to like whatever it was, $5.50, $6.
Yeah.
They're going to feel that. For us, probably the year before when containers got super scarce.
Yeah, bottlenecked up.
Yeah, and like we went from having like $6,000 containers to $30,000 containers.
Damn.
And if you don't have good gross margins, you have no margin.
Yeah,
and you're going to get compressed.
Yeah.
For us though, like our products are so diversified and scattered. We saw actually container prices come down.
Yeah, it's probably good for you guys.
It's great.
Yeah.
And so, and not to say we don't have a ton of containers coming in, but it's a decent amount. The biggest outside of the supply chain thing and supply chain, the biggest constraints, the labor pool locally.
Right.
Like that was where everyone's trying to hire and it doesn't seem like anyone wants to come work.
Yeah.
Or it's just hard to get people to come work.
Yeah.
Not to say they don't want to, but like those two probably impacted us more, but it didn't deviate the plan or what we're doing. I think having such a diversified pool of customers, like I'm not a house builder that's focused on one or like one geographical area.
Yeah.
I have thousands of customers every day from all over the world, different socioeconomic classes. I'm sure if a true depressionary environment happened, I'm sure something would be felt.
Yeah.
And we haven't really gotten into like the depth analytics of like who is our avatar, how much do they make, where do they live, what do they love to do. That's something we're going to get to.
Okay.
But having such a diversified base of customers and just continuing to grow profitably and properly.
Yeah.
We don't want to grow for the sake of growth. I think a lot of companies in my space are getting pinched because and would be impacted because they over-ordered on inventory. They didn't have enough control, or they were just forward projecting their continued growth, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
Advertising has gotten more expensive, so like the cost to acquire a customer has shot up.
Why is that?
What'll happen is either new competitors come into your space and start buying up your keywords, and you can't see this. You just know, wait a second, what used to cost me $40 to acquire a customer, now it's $65. You might have a huge player coming in and starting to run YouTube ads, and now all your keywords cost more, or they're running Facebook ads. That, or it's gotten harder to target. Like iOS's update came in, where they kind of just flipped Facebook over.
Really?
And said,
like the algorithm of how to get in front of people?
Totally. Well, it's just like the way Facebook used to run is like in platform, which is like in the ads dashboard. You could see who you targeted, why, like how it was performing. It was like plug and drop. Like I could you put in $1, you'd make 10.
Yeah.
Well, because Facebook was having all that privacy issues and like they were leaking information or whatever it was, Apple was like, we're not going to let you do that. And so they blocked all tracking to Facebook. And what that did to all the small businesses is if you don't have like first party tracking software, which we have a couple that we have running on the back end, so we'll cookie you, not wait for Facebook to
somebody
cookie
else.
You.
Gotcha. Okay.
Your ads, you might think you're profitable. Like I spend $1 to acquire you as a customer, and you're going to convert at a $3, right? Well, Facebook will tell you that, but it really, I just spent $5 to make $3.
Right.
And so all the tracking got flipped. If people couldn't navigate that properly, and it was so expensive to acquire a customer, it's like it's called a debt spike, right? Like if I'm taking debt out to buy inventory, and I buy too much inventory,
right?
Well, I need to sell that inventory to pay off my debt and to make my profit. Well, if it gets harder for me to acquire customers, you see how it's just you.
Damn.
It gets harder for me to acquire customers. The equation gets broken.
Right.
I'm not moving my debt.
Yeah.
I'm spending too much on ads. And now I'm sitting on inventory that's not moving.
Yeah.
You debt spike yourself.
That's a problem.
Oh, you'll kill your business.
Yeah.
And for us, I just hyper focus on like, we don't have a ton of products. We just have really good products that we move a lot of.
Sure.
And we're strategic about how we launch them, what ones we get into. And I'm not trying to do everything all at once. It's like, no, we'll get this solidified.
Yep.
And then we'll move to the next one. And there's a lot of constraints around like how much inventory we order. How fast are we going to move that inventory? What's the risk in ordering that inventory? Because and we don't use debt to fuel inventory purchases.
Gotcha.
So that's just playing defense in an offense environment.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Oh, no, for sure. That's got to be a full-time job or position that you guys have to look at all of that stuff. Is that you? Are you in charge of that? Is that somebody else in your department? Like
for monitoring inventory?
Yeah. Well, no. So for looking at the ad spend, like looking at the algorithm, looking at, okay, what did it used to cost? What does it cost now? Other competitors that have come in here.
Yeah.
How heavily is that monitored?
So we have a media buyer.
Okay.
And then that media buyer works with me.
Okay.
And we've been working together since the get-go.
Gotcha.
So we have a pretty good
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know what he's thinking. He knows how I'm thinking. We're getting better at tracking like daily, like real-time ad spend and performance.
Okay.
Like through like dashboards and stuff. And we do have dashboards. They're just manually input.
Gotcha.
So like I can see, we spent X amount. We made this amount. Here's what's rising.
Right.
And we can maybe say, like, it can rise for other reasons.
Okay.
Like you're creative. Like you might have shot a piece of content and you could have fatigued the content out. Like if you're running a video of you trying to sell a course or something, right?
Yeah.
You could burn that content out against that audience, and so you need to make a new creative.
Right.
Well, if there's not a constant check on how much or a constant flow of how much creative you're putting out, you might think your targeting's off, but it's really the creative. So there's like a constant change, right?
Yeah.
These are things that we talk about. I know it so well, right?
Yeah.
Starting from scratch. I can look at it and just intuitively be like, well, when was the last time we've refreshed content? What's your targeting like? What are we out of stock on a product? Because that could also throw it off.
Sure.
There's all these little variables that could
throw it off.
And so just having a deep understanding of the numbers, like who's running it. Like I know if I said, hey, spend this much on this day, and he spends it, he's not going to spend it like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
So that helps too. Like
For
I have
sure.
competent people in the right seats.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea on that, like how in depth, the back end is on something like that.
It's
how crucial it is.
Oh yeah. Like if it starts to it's why e-com is so hard, and it's why most e-com businesses raise so much money.
Yeah.
Like it's very rare for an e-com business over 8 figures to not be VC or like angel invested in.
Yeah.
Or have multiple partners that put in a bunch of money. And the reason is like to figure out how to be profitable on a product.
Yeah.
When running advertising.
Yeah.
It's I'm not going to say it's impossible because it is possible. It's just extremely expensive to figure out. Like
it sounds extremely expensive.
Well, yeah, because maybe for the first month you might be great.
Yeah.
And then the next month, now everything broke.
Yeah.
And
they changed the algorithm too, and they keep changing
everything
that.
changes.
So I mean, that's difficult to keep up with.
Yeah. And so like, and that's why, like I was saying, and these are great brands, right?
Yeah.
But like, and most of it, like Manscaped, you look at all these like big businesses
Right.
that raised a ton of money.
Right.
They're still EBITDA negative. Like they don't make money.
Yeah.
They just keep raising up into trying to get profitable.
Right.
We, from the get-go, because of how I started it, have been EBITDA positive.
Okay.
And reinvesting properly. And it's not that I can't do it another way.
Uh-huh.
If I don't make a profit or we're not profitable, we go out of business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what blows my mind is technology should be deflationary. As we progress, right? As we get better at doing things, the cost to be able to produce X result should come down, right? Because it should take less time, less effort, and we should be able to produce it at less of a cost. But it seems like with everything that's changing, like, do you see the cost for some of that stuff coming down, or is it continuing to go up?
It's actually inverse for advertising.
Really?
As a platform, when a platform first comes out, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Because people don't know.
They're not on it yet.
Nobody's on it, right? And like, this is like TikTok 2 years ago
Sure.
or Instagram in 2012.
Yeah.
Like when nobody's on it and nobody knows how it works, it's the cheapest it'll be. Or like this is like Google ads in
Yeah.
like 2000.
Yeah.
As everybody realizes what's going on, I think there's like an equilibrium point where it just any sort of profit will
Yeah.
equal out to nothing.
Right. That's jacked up.
Well, and it is what it is. Only the strong survive.
Right.
And I'm not complaining about it. I just want to be the best at it.
For sure.
And so, let's say Google and Facebook are great, but Facebook's showing signs of sucking.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start testing podcasts, YouTube, and TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2 of those suck, but I found one that works. Drop that into the system. Let's scale this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you constantly got to be like getting horizontal.
Yeah.
Because if you have one leg and it gets taken out by this really happened to a lot of smaller brands because they weren't big enough. They were only relying on Facebook.
Yep.
They were in platform on Facebook. There's brands like, or not brands, companies like Northbeam or Triple Whale where you can track performance out of Facebook's platform.
Okay.
And it'll tell you different numbers than what Facebook's telling you, but it's more actual of like where the conversion came from, and it allows you to track a little bit better.
Yeah.
But for people that didn't have that and they're just running Facebook ads, you're decimated if you're under 5 million in revenue. Because if you're only tied, assuming you're under like, let's say not 5 million, let's say you're under 2 million in revenue on a physical products business.
Sure.
You maybe have like one hero product.
Yeah.
And if that one hero product's tied to one ad stream, let's say Facebook ads, and you get swiped because Apple doesn't want Facebook, they're in a bigger fight, you're out of business. So you got to get horizontal.
Yeah. Well, so if more people, so kind of what I'm seeing is like if you're bringing, those things are all changing and more competitors are coming to the space, does that gap grow? Like the people that are already established, do they just continue to become more and more established? And the people that are coming in, it's a harder barrier to entry?
That's a good question. And I think so.
Yeah.
Here's why. I don't think it's, I think if you're, I don't know the number or like how big you need to be.
Yeah.
But I noticed when the container thing happened and the Facebook stuff happened, we were too small to over order on inventory.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have enough money to over order.
Yeah.
And we were too big to get crushed by shipping prices and the Facebook stuff. So there was a weird spot and it keeps everyone small. Cause if I'm a guy I'm like, I want to make a good amount of money. I want to live with my family. I want to go on 3 vacations a year. You don't need to do what I'm doing.
Right.
You can build a $2 million revenue business. Maybe it's just you or maybe you and a VA or something and you're happy.
Right.
And that's the majority of people in e-commerce. I would say it's probably like 92, 95% of people.
Okay.
Then you look at like behemoths like Rogue.
Yep.
Even Sensi. They're not e-com only.
Right.
They're like omni-channel with the MLM model. But like you look at these huge companies, well, when the stuff gets harder, they benefit.
Yeah.
But they're more at risk for managerial incompetence, right? You start getting people making the wrong decisions repeatedly over time, not catching waves, and you give gaps for smaller people to get up.
Yeah.
And for us, we've had our opportunities that other people haven't grabbed, but I'm sure there's opportunities that I missed that you can't cry over spilt milk on.
For sure.
But it definitely does create a gap.
That's what it seems like, man. And this isn't, there's other examples of how that works where, that gap, I think, will continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Does it become more easily to corrupt or make unethical companies due to that gap? So, like, if more and more people are becoming bigger and bigger companies, right, and they're just growing, taking up the space, and it's harder for these smaller companies to come in and throw a mix into something, does it become more easy for those companies to implement, bad things?
I see what you're trying to say. I think, I actually think it's not more and more companies are getting bigger. I think the big ones are just continuing to grow. So I don't think that necessarily there's a ton more breaking through. And I actually don't think it's easier for them to, I'll give you an example, right? Like there's one of our competitors in the space. They're owned by a private equity fund.
Okay.
Everybody, like private equity fund that's owned by one of the wealthiest investors in the world.
Okay.
And if you compare their product to mine, you'd pick mine every day.
Okay.
And they would pick mine every day. I've talked to people that work there.
Yeah.
But when your incentives are misaligned around profit, like we can make this for 90 cents instead of $1.80.
Right.
And the quality will disintegrate.
Yeah.
And I'm making mine for $2 because I want the quality to be amazing.
Right.
The customer's going to pick mine.
Yeah.
And we derank them across the board.
For sure.
They're bigger, and theoretically they should be getting better. But the decision framework from managerial incompetence,
right?
Like if somebody did that in my company where they said, "Hey, we can make this cheaper and the quality will go down."
Yeah.
Like you don't belong in my company.
Yeah.
Like I don't. We can. There's a way to make let's charge more for good quality. Let's show the customer that we're giving them more value. It's a better product.
Right.
It'll help them with what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you can, and that comes from good marketing, not scammy marketing.
Yeah.
Being able to say, this is what we do. Here's why we do it. Here's the best product.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit more expensive, but you get what you pay for.
Absolutely.
I think on a long enough time, the people that can display that can start to make a dent against the big companies.
Interesting.
And it doesn't take a lot for like a big company to get over leveraged or, I don't know what the stat is on like Fortune 500 companies 20 years ago that exist today, but I know it's like a minute amount.
For sure.
And that's like technological innovation. It could be managerial incompetence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like things that come, but if you're focused on the core competencies of like, let's provide as much value at the best value.
Yeah.
And it's like the Jeff Bezos thing. It's like you die for the customer, like serve the customer. Let's get it to him faster. Let's get it to him better priced, all of it. And that's how Amazon won.
Right.
Over time, depending on leadership, that model could shift.
Absolutely.
And it's like that's kind of like the plague of public companies because they have to chase profit.
Well, yeah, you have a group of shareholders now that, like you said, hey, we can make it at this cost, but it's going to, it's going to hurt our profit margin.
Right.
Or we could do it at this cost. It's going to be cheaper. Product's not as good. It's kind of shitty, but we profit more, right?
And I think that's why, like, I wouldn't want somebody to watch this and say, oh, well, the big guys are just going to keep getting bigger. It's like, yeah, but I had $5,000 and a laptop, and not to say we're going to go, but just grinding repeatedly on a consistent thing, not deviating, not chasing shiny objects, not trying to do 8 things at once. It's like, no, I'm going to do this until I own it.
Yep. Like
own the categories or whatever. If you can do that, it doesn't mean you can't start with $5,000 and a laptop. It is harder now than it is 5 years ago, but it'll probably be harder in 5 years from now than it is today. So, like, what's your other option?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, do you think ultimately the free market is going to decide that eventually enough people are going to say, hey, I don't want the shitty brand. I want the good quality one. And that's eventually just time is going to eat into those bigger, Fortune 500 type companies?
I think some of the Fortune 500 companies are good, right? Like I don't want to make it sound. I guess I use that term as like there are bad companies out there.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think on a long enough time horizon, with people like after COVID, like some people like American Made, some people want. There's different focuses around like why they shop.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be hard to beat price and speed. Like I want it today. At half the cost. Like everybody wants.
Everybody does.
So I don't want to say it's I don't know consumer behavior, but for us, right? We're going to serve the customer in every aspect, like the best equipment or with the best product. At the fastest place and time we can get it to them. That's why like the whole vertical integration, the building, everything. It's like vertically integrated to serve the customer.
Right. And I think you're going to see more and more of that as time goes on. The companies that adopt that method will be profitable and will last, many, many years, if not forever. The ones that don't are going to disintegrate.
Well, and a good point of that is like people that start drop shipping. And drop shipping is a great way to learn. And start like running ads. How do I learn this? But one of the biggest faults with drop shipping is you don't control how that customer gets the product. And so how can you build a brand off of something that your distribution is controlled by somebody else?
Right.
And you don't even know if that customer got it. So where you spend your time and what you spend your time on around your business is huge.
Absolutely.
And so it's not hard to be better than everybody if everyone's looking for shortcuts. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Like people just finding shortcuts to make quick money.
Yep, absolutely. Well, dude, so as we wrap up here, is Gem Reapers going to be a top, Fortune 500 company one day?
Fortune 500? It'll be a category leader. I think what the whole enterprise becomes could be.
I like that. I believe in it.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll
bro.
see. We'll regroup another 5-10 years,
Yeah,
and
dude,
we'll
let's
take a
do
look
it.
at the timeline. Well, dude, that was awesome. That was I learned a ton, so
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, would encourage anybody to go check out Gym Reapers. What's the best way for people to find you, to contact you, to look at your apparel, etc.?
For sure. Yeah. Just Gym Reapers on Instagram, GYMREAPERS. And then the website's just www.gymreapers.com.
Hell yeah, cool. Rock. Well, I wish you the best of luck in 2023, man, and we'll definitely have you back on.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
All right, brother.